Came up for you, didn't it?
Mrs. Vondervellum?
The LCAR promise. Every student is known by name, challenged and supported by highly effective staff, and in partnership with the community, will graduate career and college ready and life ready.
Thank you. At the end of the meeting, anybody in the audience will have the opportunity to address the board. You have 3 minutes. There is a white folder on your seat. At the back, you can fill out a sheet, give it to Mrs. Ott, and then we will call you up. We have our consent items. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Okay, more, I gotta get to my phone. Just hold on, everybody, I need 1 second. Okay, little jingle bells going, gang, so. Okay. My favorite thing, okay. Monty Tire, who is so good to us, 12,000 backpack blinkers, which they do every year, at approximately $25,000 for distribution to all students, which they are so giving us every single year. $500 to, lost you. $500 to Elkhart High School wrestling program, and that is from Obico. And that is it. Merry Christmas from our community. Mm-hmm.
Do we need to do it, or is Babette on?
No, Bella.
No Babette? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, she's trying to join.
Okay, well, next time we'll do
the
it.
next one.
Mr. Thorne?
Thank you, Mr. Redfield. Over the last couple of years, in an effort to make sure that we have an adequate number of drivers, helpers, we have developed some retention payment programs for both drivers and helpers, and also some recruitment and sign-on incentives. And we are asking for the authority of the board to continue that program moving forward. So we are seeking your approval of that this morning.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any changes from what we previously offered?
Identical to what we've offered in prior years, yes.
And how competitive is that with our neighboring districts?
It's pretty competitive, and I think really what gets competitive are the sign-on bonuses and the retention bonuses. Certainly we could do more, but I think our drivers and our helpers have both been very appreciative of having this in place. One of the things that's maybe unique to our program is we have a number of drivers who have retired from the school corporation but have volunteered to come back. The transportation department, those drivers would be known primarily as voucher drivers, and we've always included that group in this program. That's the group that would drive probably 3 to 5 days, not more than 5, but 3 to 5 days each week.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any discussion from the public? Is Babette on now? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. I'm sure both the department and the drivers and helpers will be very appreciative of this.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hopefully you've had a chance to read the recommendation for award in your packet regarding fuel bids. We opened those last Wednesday on the 15th. We had 3 bidders, Series, Petroleum Traders, and Yoder. And based upon the pricing for fixed, pricing for diesel and regular, we are recommending that we enter into a price agreement with Series for the next calendar year of 2022.
So moved. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion from the board?
On the bids, you had 2 people that answered and 1 that declined.
Well, what we actually do is we allow them to give us a dock price, they give us a price over the dock price, so whatever the dock price is of the day. then that's what we call for an order. Then they charge us dock price plus basically the taxes, which equals 54 cents for diesel. It can be a little more depending on an additive, and 33 cents for gasoline. Or we ask for a fixed price, which gives us the total for the year. So when you look at our numbers, we ask for 170,000 gallons of diesel and 17,500 gallons of gasoline, and we're able to come up with an absolute price that makes us a little bit more comfortable. Dock price, you know, if it goes down every day, super. Like right now, oil's fluctuating. It's down about $3 a barrel from last week. It may go back up. So we are dependent upon whatever the market does. But with the fixed price, it allows us to say, okay, here's what we have in our budget. So for the last couple of years, we've gone with the fixed price. So more comfortable.
Yeah, from a budgetary standpoint, I see that and understand that. Have you ever done the exercise for a 6-month period to see what the dock price versus the contractual price would be?
Not at the time that I've been in this, we certainly can.
Just out of curiosity, you know, when you make the decision, I understand it from a cash flow budgetary standpoint, it's a prudent decision, but I always want to say, you know, but I won the other way. So, and I'm not saying you have to do that. I was just curious.
It makes sense, I guess, for me. I've always felt that if it goes in the wrong direction, I'm going to feel bad for having made the wrong.
Kind of what we were discussing this morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, isn't Cirrus who we used last year also?
Yes, they've been our fuel provider since 2006.
Okay.
By way of this.
Is there any other discussion from the board? Is there any discussion from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So, that's anybody calling yet?
Not yet.
She's trying.
Yeah, I just gotta get it in.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, she just texted me.
texting, but.
Right.
On December 15th, we also received bids for the Transportation Fuel Center. This is part of the Master Campus Plan project. We consider it phase 2. So the first phase was all the reconstruction to create the new circulation. The second phase is to build a new fuel center. Our existing tanks are approximately from 1983, 84, mid-80s, and we are beginning to notice some issues. The ground is heaving. We don't have any known contamination or spills, but just it's time. And our insurance company really would like us to get rid of underground storage. So this project, we've created an above-ground storage tank farm that would be located on the 10th Street property. This is actually the second bid we've received for this project. The first time we only received one bidder, and the second time as well, we only received one bidder and the same bidder. But due to the nature of the project and what has become more of a sense of urgency to get this done, we are going to recommend that the contract be awarded to R. Yoder of Napanee at this time.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from the board?
How many gallons of storage will you have and how many tanks?
We'll have one 15,000-gallon diesel tank and one 6,000-gallon gasoline tank. We currently have 36,000 gallons of gasoline and diesel, and 10,000 gallons of gasoline.
Okay, 15,000 gallons is under normal week-to-week in-school operation. How big a buffer is that for your fleet?
It's double. We use about 7,500 gallons.
Okay, all right.
And we can get, the tanker trucks are roughly 7,500 gallons that we currently have. So they're all roughly in the same range. So we can get deliveries weekly. I mean, we all see them in there. Those trucks are rolling constantly.
We think we can get deliveries weekly.
Well, we have not had an issue with that so
Right.
far, so let's
I know.
hope that doesn't change.
Well, you know, with commodity shortages and stuff like that, I'd still like to see our schools run.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Now, does the bid include the removal of the underground tanks?
It
Will
does
the
not.
underground tanks stay?
The underground tanks, right now, we're reviewing with the engineer whether we have to remove them or if we can actually clean them and basically fill them up with sand and leave them in place.
Okay.
We're hoping for the least expensive option. However, I say my gut, I'll say it differently. My experience, tells me that we're gonna remove them.
So when they are removed, if they are removed, is the insurance company gonna give us any consideration since they're pushing for this?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we've seen the price of insurance, go up probably 15 to 20% every year on this policy.
Yeah, evil insurance companies, I understand.
I just thought I'd mention it. We don't use State Farm yet, but
It would be a conflict of interest. Besides, you guys are too big of a risk for me.
You have underground tanks.
Any other discussion from the board? Any discussion from the public?
Kelly Mullen.
Aye.
Babette Bowen. Aye. Ann Vondervellen. Aye. Doug Weaver.
Aye.
Troy Scott.
Aye.
Stacy Davis. Aye. Rocky Hanfield.
Aye. Thank you.
Good morning. First item is, for the scope of work for Elevate K-12. We heard a little bit about, we had bumps in the road as we launched this mid-semester for semester, but, it has been a good thing. I talked to Geneva a little bit after the board meeting, and she said we couldn't get by without this. Because of our staffing shortages, it's been a good thing. And the scope has increased about 9%. We're adding additional classes up here, we're in second semester. So with that, I would ask for board approval of changing the scope.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do you have any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the public?
Kelly Mullen. Aye. Babette Bowen. Aye. Ann Vondervellen. Aye. Doug Weaver.
Aye.
Troy Scott.
Aye.
Stacy Davis. Aye. Rocky Hanfield.
Aye.
Okay, great. The next item relates to our ESSER-related construction projects. In July, the board approved performance services. We have a couple gentlemen here today with us as a project team to perform work at Daly Westside High School. And so today we're asking for approval of the installation contract. It'll total $7,691,360. And then there's also a guarantee agreement related to that, so we're guaranteed a certain amount of utility savings. I'd point out that through this process, we took bids and quotes from 15 vendors. A lot of those are local. A good process, and it will pump dollars into the Elkhart account. So, with that, I would ask for approval of the installation contract as presented, as well as the guaranteed energy savings agreement.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from the board?
Yeah, I have a question there. These are extensive replacement of HVAC systems, correct? And I know you won't know this, but the air quality that's going to go through there, along with the, any virus and stuff. Can you guys elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, the focus, especially.
You want to step to the podium there?
Bob Weedy from Performance Services.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Performance Services. Yes, one of the major focuses of this work to improve indoor air quality in the classrooms. We will be replacing aged equipment, air handling unit ventilators, some that are 40, 50 plus years old, normal lifespans 25 to 30, and replacing them and improving the air turn. And as part of the project, we will come in 3 times during the first year and take measurements for ventilation, CO2, everything along those lines. So you're going to see an increase in air turn, which is probably the most important component for indoor air quality to reduce the spread of infection. So that's the main focus of this.
Specifically, capturing, viruses and stuff like that. How effective is your system in that removal or killing them?
CDC says the best process is to improve the amount of ventilation and what are called air changes in the room. So we are doubling what the current amount is in the old unit ventilators. So that's the best thing you can do. Now also we've improved filters. Dale, what are we going with? MERV 13. MERV 13, which are recommended by, again, the CDC. we will, we're gonna place orders, this week, which will, be ahead of price increases that will occur in January. So that was a big component and why we chose this delivery method. It allows us to get out to market, and get items on the order much quicker. So that's positive. A lot of the work will happen this summer. It will drag on because of long lead times for some of the equipment.
Is there an estimated total completion time for the project?
Yeah, it'll be this summer of '23, yes. Because some of the equipment has a 40-week lead time. It'll be about 60% this summer, and the remainder happening during the school year where we can.
And no disruption to teaching or any quality for the student safety or anything like that, okay? And then, can you just explain for anybody that's new in this room that's come, like, explain why we're able to use that money from the ESSER fund?
So the various ESSER funds, and this will be funded from ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, primarily 2, allowed for, as Bob described, classroom environment improvements to make it healthier for kids and adults that are in this room. So we met that threshold when we submitted the total ESSER budgets to the state. They approved those because it said that this component as well as the others we submitted fell within the guidelines. So we've met the requirements of the ESSER program.
Any further discussion from the board? Is there any discussion from the public? Yes, sir.
What's the current MERV rating on the system now?
8 or 9. And it's based upon the airflow that we're allowed to allow. This system in particular, the system daily in particular, was originally put in 1949. And so they're outside unit vents. We don't have the fresh air coming in. So the duct sizing is a lot smaller, and that's why we've been unable to put in higher rated filters and get the airflow needed for the rooms. But with this work, we're going to be able to increase the duct sizing to bring in more fresh air, increase the work rate. We actually tried putting more air in during COVID, and it worked fine when we had a third of the students in the classrooms because we had less fresh air needs. But when we went back to full occupancy, we found that we were starving the systems.
So what's the difference between, let's say, commercial business of what theirs is for their people or people at home?
Well, at home, I can speak specifically to that. Fresh air only comes into the house if you have fresh air. Most homes do not. So home systems run on temperature only and just circulate air when it's called for. So the only way getting fresh air, most people know, Thanksgiving's up in your window. Otherwise, you don't get any fresh air unless you have a fresh air intake, which people can put in, but not everyone does. In a commercial building, I'm not really sure, but in our school systems, our school buildings were required by the state code to provide fresh air ventilation whenever a building's on. So our buildings run continuously. We'll run anywhere from 5% outside air, depending on the outside temperature, so we won't freeze the systems, up to 100%. So we can control that in many of our buildings, not all. The older the buildings, the harder it is to control the amount of fresh air.
And this is energy savings, did I understand that? How's that an energy savings?
Well, if you don't mind speaking to how that works.
Part of it is by using.
Can you speak in the microphone?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
For our person.
It's an energy savings project. Part of it is the controls that we're able to do. A lot of times we'll be able to use outside air because of the controls to provide free cooling. And so we increase the amount of fresh air that's coming into there like you would open your window, windows only. So it's been calculated that amount of savings. Additionally, these systems needed new boilers, and so those are much more energy efficient than the old boilers. And then you have a chiller at the high school that's about to fail. That's a 30-some-year-old chiller that's going to be replaced with a newer one, more higher efficient, like an old car versus a new car. So those all add up to energy savings. What kind of energy savings?
The
The annual guarantee is just over $89,000. Total exceptions.
89,802.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, I mean, if you've got something that's from 1940s versus 2021, I mean, it's gotta be energy saving with, you know, how old it is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further discussion from the public?
Kelly Mullen,
Aye.
Babette Bowling. Aye. Ann Bonzabellin. Aye. Doug Weaver,
Aye.
Troy Scott,
Aye.
Stacy Davis. Aye. Rocky Anderson.
Aye.
Great, thank you. The next item, as you know, the state requires us to receive all of the state basic grant into the education fund and then allows us to transfer up to 15% to operations to cover those expenses that the state pushed into the operations fund. And so this resolution, does a year-end square-up as well as adjust the amount that we transfer monthly, starting in January of '22. So that, Mr. President, I would ask for approval of this transfer.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from the board?
Kevin, what percentage does this keep us at?
13.2. So, yeah, the
Still
state,
underneath it.
the state's kind of artificial threshold is 15%, right? We continue to be nicely under that number, so we've stayed off the naughty list.
We've been right around 13. Pardon? We've been right around 13 each year.
Yeah, and the new monthly amount ties to the amount that I put in the budget, like a budget for our annual. That's why the adjustment.
Any further discussion from the board? Any comments from the public?
Kelly Mullen,
Aye.
Babette Bowling. Aye. Ann Bonzabellin.
Aye.
Doug Weaver,
Aye.
Troy Scott,
Aye.
Stacy Davis. Aye. Rocky Anderson.
Aye.
Thank you. The next resolution is transfer to rainy day. I come to you each December if we have money available, and as allowed by statute, we're making a transfer to rainy day. And so with that, Mr. President, I would ask for approval of this resolution as well.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a motion and a second? Do we have any discussion from the board?
The transfer is 3.2,
1.5.
1.5.
That references how much we put in the budget for next year's one payroll, 3.2.
Gotcha.
And this 1.5 will get us back to the same, roughly the same balance that we had at the end of the year last year.
That was my second question.
Any further discussion from the board? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none?
Kelly Mullen,
Aye.
Babette Bowling. Aye. Ann Bonzabellin.
Aye.
Doug Weaver,
Aye.
Troy Scott,
Aye.
Stacy Davis. Aye. Rocky Anderson.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to the financials, business office reports a cash balance at the end of November 2021 of $31,146,144.23. As you look at education operations fund behind that, both funds are nicely ahead of last year, and so through November of 2021, we're doing well. That concludes my comments on financials.
Kevin, just a question, when do we get the payment from the state or the local for the next property tax? When I look at the budget, the full year is showing
We-
22 million, we only got
We
10.
do, they come at the end of
I guess I wondered when they came in, okay.
Kevin, what was your answer? We get on that.
At the end of December. We'll get the notice from the auditor's office. Okay. And finally for me, is insurance report. As you can see, November was not kind to us. compare that to November of 2020. In 2020, with the COVID year, and elective procedures were pushed off, and so we've seen kind of the rebound of that, the pent-up demand of activity, and as we see annually, November, December are often heavy months. The one piece of good news for November is that we still were, on a year-to-date basis, $765,000 ahead of the expected cost. So, some good news, but certainly a little heavier year than we've seen in 2020 and 2019. So, that concludes my comments. For any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
At this time, does anybody from the audience have anything they would like to address the board about?
I would just like to express my appreciation again to the staff for everything they've done this first semester. We know that there have been challenges, and everybody from the people working with students on a daily basis and transporting them to school, all the way up through administrators in this building have been working incredibly hard. So I just, again, voice my appreciation to everybody for that. Wish everybody a good holiday break and time with their families, and come back and be ready to continue the important work next semester.
Yeah, I'd like to say Merry Christmas to everyone in our community here. And also, last night over at our auditorium, there was a winter concert put on by the orchestra. And that was very, very impressive to see, those students out there in their full dress, basically, with their tuxes and their gowns and stuff like that on. And, just the discipline that, music installs in those kids. But it was a very rewarding experience. And unfortunately for me, they had done 2 prior to that, but there was kind of like board meetings on those 2 nights before that in the fall, this winter and stuff like that. So I could only make the one last night, but it was definitely worthwhile. And I would encourage everyone to get out and to check out our music department stuff. So thank you.
Devin, do you have any comments? Okay.
Any other comments from the board?
Wow, is this Susan's last meeting with us?
No,
She
just
has
one more meeting.
Okay, one more, okay.
Yeah, one
We'll
more
fill
meeting.
the room up with balloons, have a parade come through and all of that. A parade, we'll figure out to have a parade, but yeah, Merry Christmas also from me to everybody and our staff and our students, and may you grow abundantly in faith and love through the new year.
Any other comments? Seeing none?